All right, so welcome to the Knackered Golfers podcast. It's Monday morning after the completion of the Procore Championship out at Silverado in Napa. And Mr. Producer and I went there on Saturday, and I did do a podcast where we were driving back and we talked about it. But it was, I haven't had time to do anything with it, but this is still kind of fresh in my mind. We had a really, really great time, and it was a special event because all the available Ryder Cup guys showed up and played. And looking back on it, we didn't get to go to the 2020 PGA at Harding Park where everybody was there, but I don't know, it comes close to filling that void of not being able to go to that major, because it was a major, and we saw Colin Morikawa, who won that tournament. We saw him like twice. I saw him like 3 times during that day. I saw him in the morning warm up, and then when we were out on the course, he was coming into the 11th hole, and I was behind the green on the 11th hole on Saturday, and he came in on that one. And then at the end of the day, we went back to the range, and Colin was sort of tinkering around with his swing because he was worried about, having an over-the-top problem. And so he was there, he wasn't really doing much. He was just like on the phone, and, his caddy was there I don't know. The caddy probably would have been wanting to do something else, but Colin was there, and it was all right to see him. He was okay, but he could really hit the ball. But the main focus of why we went was because I wanted to see Scotty Scheffler, and boy did we see him. We saw him big time. We left really early in the morning on Saturday, and by the way, if you didn't know, he won yesterday, and it was going to happen. The number one guy in the world comes to your little tournament that's in between the Tour Championship and the Ryder Cup, and he's going there to warm up to the Ryder Cup. But he was a complete. I was just completely fascinated by what he does, what his presence was, and I just gotta I'm gonna be all over the place with this, but it was a horrible week last week, and there were moments where I felt guilty about being at the tournament, and we went to church yesterday, and I talked to somebody about it, and it is what it is. It was a horrible week all around for everybody, but it was something we had planned to go to that tournament, and I'm glad we did. And it was something good on the mountain of what was bad about last week. So we went to the tournament. We had a really great breakfast at Red's Cafe, which I love going to. It's a very simple and just a simple place to get breakfast, and it's been in business for over 30 years. And you just go there, you get your fuel for the day, you get your little bit of coffee, and then you're ready. You don't have to eat for the rest of the day. They have this thing called the man-sized breakfast that I get with bacon and eggs and potatoes. I just love it because it's so simple, and it gives you the fuel that you need for the day, because I cannot stand going to big time sporting events and spending my time in line waiting for food. My goal is not to go to these events and have food whenever it is, and then be overcharged and gouged for it. So we went there. So the first thing we did was we got to and there's a video video up on YouTube that I put up last night that's about 35 minutes, and it's of just these guys, and it's the thing I love to do is watch these tour players warm up before their round, and I've always loved that, because they come to the range. Silverado's a very, very old place, and they used to have this tournament called the Kaiser International that I think may have been back in the 70s, and all the guys that were on the senior tour back in my day, those guys played there, and then they had the Transamerica tournament at Silverado, which was a senior tour event, which was the one that Arnold Palmer showed up for, and he flew his jet into Napa Airport, and then he would have like a steak at Jonesy's, and then get back in the air and go back to Pennsylvania, whatever. But back in the 90s, that was when that tournament was big, and then the next week would be the Rated Senior Gold Rush here in Sacramento, Rancho Marietta. And so the Transamerica was always the tournament before that, and so that was a big deal tournament, because that would be on ESPN. And anyway, so we go there, and so to have Silverado back on the PGA Tour schedule is really staggering to me, because it's a very old golf course that doesn't look to seem to have the length that all these other courses have on the tour. So it's one of these gems that is really old, and it's really established, and it's just a great venue. I think it's a great venue because it's easy to walk, and it's easy to get in and out of, basically. And we had better parking accommodations this time. We parked next to the Cal Fire Station. So we get there Saturday, and we park, and then there was this discrepancy because I was looking online at the PGA Tour website, and they said, no clear plastic backpacks allowed. You could only bring in like a fanny pack. And then I get out of my car, and I see this elderly woman with a clear backpack on her back, and I said, "Is that allowed?" And she says, "Yeah, And then I asked the bus driver, are these clear backpacks allowed? And she's like, "Yeah, it's the only thing they do allow." And I'm like, whoa. So there's a complete disconnect on what's allowed and what isn't. And I brought that backpack in to the U.S. Amateur at the Olympic Club, and it was no problem. So, it was a great investment to be able to buy that, and I'm so glad that at the last moment I grabbed that clear backpack, because I'm like all about the rules, I just want to follow the rules. It's like golf, You want to follow the protocol, I guess, of getting to, whatever checkpoint they have and saying, no, you can't bring this stuff in. And, I'm a couple tickets short of being a media person, whatever, having a credential, and I've had credentials before, not for the PGA Tour, but for historic auto racing events. But, I have this microphone, and I have a rig that I came up with, and a phone holder and all that stuff, and they let me bring that in. And so I thought it was great that they allowed me to bring that in, because the sound I have for the video that's up there is really good. It's better than an iPhone. And so we get there, and we saw Johnny Miller's clubs in the clubhouse, and I really wanted to show Mr. Producer that. And they had his claret jug in there from 1976 when he won the British Open. And I already got I took some pictures for the buddies on the Forge Golf Club Appreciation page, and I posted those. And they're like, "Oh, whoa, look at these clubs. They're Slazenger forged blades, and they have his name written on it. There's lead tape all over them." And I was thinking about it more. Slazenger was a tennis and golf company, and they're like a European sporting goods kind of a company. So Schlesinger was, I don't know if it's similar to Wilson or Dunlop or something like that. Schlesinger's probably closer to Dunlop, but I always thought Schlesinger was a really cool name. And it had a really good logo and really good, like, markings on the heads, you know, of these irons. And the heads, the irons looked like they were Hogan's with the numbers on them. But they were Schlesingers, and I'm wondering if you can buy those had to be custom made for Johnny Miller. So he had 3 persimmon woods in his bag, and then a bullseye putter, and it's just in there for display. And you know, it would have been really great to see Johnny Miller during that tournament, but it didn't happen. But he's getting really old. So anyway, we get there, we see his clubs, and then we go out to the putting green, and we see these guys tinkering around on the green. And we're there, like, right after the gates open at, like, 8 a.m. And you saw the morning guys. You saw, like, Jason Duffner and this guy, David Skins, who, I guess, had a shank on the second hole during Saturday. He shanked it to the right because it's a long par 3. And then he gets on the green, and then he gets a par on the hole, and so he's able to save par after shanking it to the right. So, and then we saw Justin Thomas, who finished last out of all the Ryder Cuppers, and he was there tinkering around with his putter. We saw Tom Kim and Bo Hostler, and then so when we got to the green, so there weren't that many guys at the green at the moment, but then once we got to the green, we meandered over to the driving range, and I was over there for the next, like, 4 hours because I was just enthralled with with watching these guys hit balls. So we get to the range, and it's Jason Duffner hitting balls with his, and that guy waggles like nobody waggles before. I've never seen that guy waggle in a long time, and it's a bit extreme to me, but it works for him, I guess, if he's out there on tour. But he had this lab putter that he was using. I mean, a lot of these guys have the lab putter, and what Jason Duffner was doing is they have this training aid where they put the ball on a mirror, and the mirror shines back up on them, so I guess they can see their face in the mirror, and they're online. And then the cups on the practice green had white paint around the edge of the cup. And, you know, they're just putting the ball in the hole, no big deal. And the green was firm, and it was fast, you know, it was really good green. So, we saw Jason Duffner hit balls, then we saw Gary Woodland hit balls. And, you know, before getting into the whole driving range thing, the volunteers that were at the driving range, they were a bit, I mean, they're all volunteers, they probably live there, and they kind of don't really, I mean, they did their job well, and it was difficult to see around them, but when they would literally just, like, stand between you and the golfer that they were watching, they just had no idea that you were filming or anything like that. It was really frustrating to sort of get a moment between me and, like, a tour player hitting balls and being able to, like, you know, film that and having it be, you know, okay, whatever, and having it be not interrupted. It's pandemonium on the range because you got caddies, you got player representatives, you got volunteers, you got maybe, you know, there wasn't any media people out there, but it's a little difficult to be on there and just be stuck behind the fence or whatever and trying to film. So it was a little frustrating, but I got some good shots of Gary Woodland hitting these stingers that was really great. And I put that to music on the video, and it was really fun to see that come out. The whole reason why I do these videos is for me to just be able to watch YouTube, you know, in front of my couch while I'm on my couch on my TV. So that's why I do it. So hopefully it'll come out well. So it was Gary Woodland, and then we saw Harris English out there, and would have little interactions with him. Like I had a little interaction with Gary Woodland and also Harris English, and I've wanted to see his swing for a long time, but he's really cool. He's always chewing that gum and doing his thing. So then Harris English, and then Gary Woodland, and then Cameron Young was out there. I thought Cameron Young was cool because he's got this Michael McDonald look, and he's always like trying to give people stuff. Like he'll take range balls and sign them, and then like give them to little kids or whatever. And same thing, he was on 17T. He was grabbing water out of the cooler and giving them to like kids or older ladies or something like that. It was fun to see that. And then Scotty Scheffler came out, and he was, I was getting reports from Mr. Producer like, oh yeah, so he's on the putting green now, and they went from the putting green over to the driving range, and so we went over to the very west side of the range, and him and Ted Scott were there, and I was just so mesmerized by Scotty Scheffler, because he did this. I filmed him as well, and he does this. He's a master at doing the footwork on the TV and hitting every shot different on TV. But just being behind him while he's hitting balls was just mesmerizing, because he does this thing where he goes up to the top, and then it's almost like when he comes back down, it's almost like he's coming over the top of the ball just a tiny, tiny bit. But he's an instinctual fader of the ball. But he could hit any shot he wants. But every single time he hit a shot, he ended up in the same spot, on the follow-through with the club behind his back or behind his body. And I was just, whoa, that's really, really fascinating. And then they all have this, lean that they all do between the takeaway when they come up to the top, and then, between when the club is at the top and they bring it back down to make contact with the ball. They all lean sort of forward. And I saw Cameron Young do that, and I saw Gary Woodland do that, and then obviously Scott Scheffler was doing that, and that's, and then the way they all hit the ball, the sound the ball makes was really great, because Cameron Young uses forged blades, and Scott Scheffler uses forged blades. It's just the sound that the ball would make, after hitting the club was just so great. It's just like butter on a hot biscuit, So I was just mesmerized by all that. So, and then after Scotty was done hitting balls, he would go to this bunker practice area that was behind the range, or on the other side of the cart path, and just chip away at a few balls. And he made 4 or 5 of them from the bunker, and then also the sort of shade down area that was behind the bunker in the green. So people were just mesmerized by it. So the thing that I noticed about that is that you see him doing his thing, and I'm filming him, and then I take a moment to see what everyone else is doing, and everybody's watching. Everybody's watching what Scotty's doing. And, you had, there was this open gate that was to the road, and you saw people that were outside of the gate watching Scotty hit shots. And, it was just, people were just stopped in their tracks, and you made sure that people that, I tried to make sure that when people were struggling to see if there was a space next to me, I'd be like, come on over here and get closer, and it was just awesome. It was just like you see him on TV every week, and the way he wins and the way he just has so much focus and didn't interact with anybody. He was just doing his own thing, and nobody was yelling at him for an autograph. Nobody was just like, look at me, Scotty. None of that. It was just pure, focus. And, I'm here. I'm here. This is where I'm at right now, and it's just unbelievable. I mean, I saw Tiger Woods practice, and I don't think, I may have seen Jack Nicklaus hit balls, but just like he has the Tiger focus. He also has the Jack Nicklaus focus, and just like he can dial it up at any moment for whatever shot he needs. And so we followed him on the front nine, and we got out. So the first tee was completely like 10 people deep all around the tee, and you had to be there maybe an hour before he showed up just to get a decent spot. And they had bleachers, they had roped around areas, and it's just like people were waiting for him. And then he gets up there, and he's playing with this guy that nobody really heard of. I can't really remember his name now, but just like, I had my rig, and I had to put my phone up over above like 20 people or something around me, because it was, like I said before, it was 10 people deep. And so it was like, they announced his name, and everybody cheers, and it's like, wow, it was so cool to see that. And then he's off, and so he was playing on Saturday. He had like a 11, I don't know, I think it was like a 12:15 starting time or something, or it could have been, no, I think it was like 12:45 or something. And so he gets out, and then people are like, I've never seen that many people at Silverado at one time. I mean, I think I was there two other times. I was there for, I think when Cameron Champ won, when it was called the Safeway, and then I went there when Max Homa won, when that was called the Fortinet, and then, but that was nothing compared to what this was, because everybody that had gone to the tournament was there to see Scotty. Nobody else was really that important. And even though the other Ryder Cuppers were there, the galleries that those guys had was just minuscule compared to what Scotty had. And so you had that all around the course. It was just like every single time you would hit a shot, somebody would yell something like mashed potatoes or holy shnikes or something. Oh, just amazing just to see that. And so you had to get ahead of the Scotty Scheffler group like 3 or 4 holes at least to get a decent spot. But I didn't really do that, and I wasn't going to stand there and wait just to see Scotty after I just watched him hit balls on the range. So it was really cool. I didn't see him putt on the first green, but I think Mr. Producer did. But I mean, I was waiting behind the second tee and waiting for that, and then he just walked across the bridge, and so he was off, and so I don't know, it was just the rest of the day. I mean, my camera work or my camera video, whatever, it didn't really come. I don't think it's going to be that good because it's not close, and I didn't have my telephoto lens or anything. But it was, and then we walked, and then we got to like the 6th hole or something, and then we're like, all right, what are we going to do? And when Scotty got to, so 6 comes around, and then you have the 7th hole, which is like a short par 3, and then there's the 8th, because they rerouted the course when Sahith Theegala won, and the front nine is completely different. I mean, it's not really. I mean, it's more in line with how the course should have been in the beginning. But I don't know. The 10th hole kind of goes. You got 10, 11, so the back nine. So you got most of the front nine is sort of the northwest portion of the property, and then the back nine sort of is on the northwest portion, and then it sort of splits in half and goes down to the sort of southeast portion of the course. And then so you got 9, 10, 11 is a little par 3 over a lake, and then it comes back towards the clubhouse on 12, and then 13 is that hole that we saw Bill Mickelson and Justin Thomas like 5 years ago, and then 14 is goes over the lake or go over the river and then back to the the other side of the course, and then so we waited on 17T after a bunch of time, and they had, when I was there the last time, they had people able to sit behind the tee box, and so I sat there for the whole time. But this place didn't have any bleachers or anything, so we were just there behind the tee box, and then finally Scotty came up on 17, and everybody was just like clamoring to see what Scotty would do, and his shot on 17 made the highlight reel, and my voice got on the TV broadcast of the Golf Channel coverage, and so I put that in the video as well, and it was really cool to see that. And then he birdied 17. He almost made a hole-in-one on the 17th hole. It just went over the top of the pin, and then the ball went off the green a little bit, and then rolled back just a hair, so he had like a 5 or 7 footer for birdie, and he just made it. He made it, and then he finished his round on 18, and then when he was done, he had to like rest a little bit, and Ted Scott had to sit down and rest or whatever, and he did his media stuff, and then kids were like yelling for him to come back out to sign autographs because they were all in this autograph zone, and so he does his thing, takes a little break, and then comes back out and then signs all these autographs for kids. And everybody was just thrilled, to see him. They're like, oh my God, I got Scotty Scheffler's autograph, it was so great. And this father and son that we saw on 17T, they were there, and they were from Cupertino, and he got in line, and the little kid was there. He signed his Circon hat, and he was so thrilled. So I hope they hear this, but it was so great to see that. And I mentioned earlier that I was on the range waiting, and I just remember Bill that I talked to, who was marshal for the Scotty Scheffler group, and him and I were having a great conversation about living and growing up in Georgia and going to the Masters every year. And his favorite Masters was the '86 Masters when Nicklaus won. So I met Bill from Thousand Oaks, and he was a volunteer for the Scotty Scheffler group, so it was great to meet him. And it was really cool. It was just great all around. So once that was done, Scotty was done signing balls or signing autographs, and then we went to the putting green, and we saw this amateur kid, this Jackson Coyven, who I guess is from Los Gatos, and he had an unbelievable month and a half where he was he's an amateur, and he was at the Wyndham Championship in North Carolina, finished on the first page of the leaderboard there. Then he played at the U.S. Amateur the next week after that, back in August at the Olympic Club. Then last week he was at the Walker Cup at Cypress Point, and they won that. And then he was at the Procore this week, and he finished probably second or third place, at the Procore. And so this kid is not, I don't think he's even in college yet. He's like in high school, whatever. And so Mr. Producer got his autograph, and he was at the green, he was signing autographs for kids, and I'm like, dude, get in there. This guy's going to be huge. So had a picture with him, or Mr. Producer did, and it was just awesome, just great. And then we saw J.J. Spawn on the green, and his little daughters were there running around and having a great time, and so cute, so precious to see that. And then that was about it. And we saw Russell Henley on the green, and all those guys that were finished up for the day, they were sort of getting back. They were sort of, trying to iron out things that they were working on or thinking about, whatever. So we just had a great time. We had a ball, and then we were there. We were up at 4 o'clock in the morning on that day, and then we got back to where we live in outside Sacramento, and then we got some dinner at Sizzler, and really great dinner there, and then came back. We were home at like 10 o'clock, so it's like, man, what a day that was. So, man, what a great day it was at the Procore, and I'm just driving into work now on Monday morning, and Scotty won, and I haven't seen the highlight reel for that yet. But I love going to that tournament, and really great to see that, and to finally see Scotty Scheffler was just the icing on the cake. So, all right, that's about it. Thanks so much for listening. This is the Knocker Golfers Podcast on the Observant Ear Radio Network.